Hi, everyone. Thank you for being inside with us when I know that we'd all much rather be in the sun, or I would. But welcome. We're here today to talk about international touring and environmental responsibility. So it's a real pleasure to be here today. I'm Farah Ahmed. My pronouns are she, they, and I am actually formally the climate justice lead of Julie's Bicycle. And I'm here to talk about, we're talking about the International Touring and Environmental Responsibility Program, which we'll call ITA for short. A little visual description for anyone who needs. I am a South Asian non-binary person with cropped curly dark hair, and I'm wearing a purple strappy dress and big clumpy shoes. We've got a really brilliant panel lined up for you today. And we'll introduce you to everyone really shortly. But before we do that, we're just going to set the scene and give a really brief introduction to Julie's Bicycle and the ITA program. Which is a partnership program supported by Arts Council England, the Danish Arts Foundation, and Arts Council Norway. And we have some of our funding partners in the room with us. I would say do a big whoop, but I'm not sure that that's like general Arts Council England protocol. And we're really grateful that you're here, and to all the project partners who make it possible to be here today and to share with you some of the learning and some of the insights from the program. So, firstly, the ITA program was initiated by Arts Council England, by the Danish Arts Foundation, and by Arts Council Norway. It was initiated by them. We're really grateful for that ongoing support and commitment. And we'll go through a little bit of who Julie's Bicycle are now too. So Julie's Bicycle, or JB, is a not-for-profit that unites culture, creativity, and climate action to drive change. JB was founded nearly 20 years ago and was one of the first organizations to recognize the cultural sector's potential to lead climate action, and through continuous innovation, advocacy, and collaboration, has remained at the forefront of the creative climate movement. JB has partnered with and nurtured over 2,000 cultural organizations and led the charge in national and international policy discussions, proving that the creative community and industries can be powerful drivers of climate solutions, as well as a source of inspiration in building a positive future. And we believe that together we can turn creativity into a powerful force for a just and regenerative future. So how we do this is by through programs such as ITA, alongside other programs like our Creative Green Consultancy Program and the Arts Council Environmental Program, which provides skills training, leadership development, resources, research, partnership work, and policy development. So it's a really holistic approach to cultural change. JB have been delivering the ITA program for 3 years, and we're delighted to now be launching the 4th year of the program in collaboration with our brilliant new Danish partners in Futurum, who are co-designing and co-delivering this program with us. And straight after this panel, we'll be hosting a workshop with Futurum, who are joining us online. So those of you who take part today will get a chance to meet them, and we'll be hosting that workshop in the boardroom, which will be just upstairs, and we'll be led up there after this. So a little bit of a background on the ITA program. The program was initiated by the funders, recognizing that travel and touring are essential to the arts, but that touring is also one of the most challenging impact areas to tackle. The program responds to this need and the urgency of the climate crisis by offering a program which helps our sector to understand the impacts of touring and to develop sustainable models for sharing art while supporting a low-carbon just future. So ITA aims to foster relationships between artists and companies based in England, Denmark, and Norway, supporting them to develop new environmentally responsible, inclusive, and equitable approaches to international touring and collaboration. So we're now at a stage where we have 83 ITA alumni and 11 projects that have received funding and put their ideas into practice. So it's fair to say that this program has had a really beneficial impact on those who've taken part, and many have gone on to make really deep changes to their practice, policies, and ways of working as a result of taking part in this program. And we'll go into that through the panel. So for the next program, building on the success of previous years, for the fourth iteration, we're introducing a new format. So this program will now include 2 seminar streams, one for beginners and one for change makers who've been doing this work a bit more deeply already. So both of them will run in parallel with sessions co-delivered by JB and in futurum. The beginners program will offer an opportunity to those who are more new to sustainability, and the program is designed to introduce participants to the core aspects of sustainable touring and sustainable international collaboration. So the sessions will blend presentations with interactive activities and discussions and invitations from guest speakers to provide a holistic and comprehensive foundation for understanding and reducing the environmental impacts of our collaboration and touring. While considering the imperative for this work to be inclusive, equitable, and to integrate environmental justice. So the more advanced program for change makers, people who've already been changing their practice and are ready to explore the possibilities of driving wider systemic and transformative change, will also be running at the same time. Both programs are delivered online, so there'll be a lot of interactive space for learning, knowledge sharing, and networking. And at the end of the seminar program, the participants have the opportunity to apply for funding to test new touring models and to form new collaborations. That's the really, really, key part of this program as well. So thank you for listening to that little introduction. And we're now going to meet our panelists who have all participated in the ITA program over the last 3 years. We'll go straight to you. So we'll start with Victor, and if you just introduce yourself for a couple of minutes and also do a visual description.
Couple of minutes. All right. Hello, my name is Victor Fung, and I'm the Artistic Director and Joint CEO of Pavilion Dance Southwest, based in Bournemouth. So we're a dance organization. We've got a venue with a 200-seat theatre and 2 dance studios as well. And our mission is to transform communities through dance. I'm going to roll back a little bit. My pronouns are he, him. And just a description of my appearance. I'm a 42-year-old Chinese man dressed in a blue shirt and a pair of black trousers and some very not fashionable sneakers. That's how I would describe myself. Was that 2 minutes?
Hello. Hello. My name is Olga, Regitze here. I'm from Denmark, and I'm a scenographer and costume designer, working internationally with different scenic formats and different scales. My pronouns are she, her, and a visual description. Well, I'm a Scandinavian woman. I'm about a medium height, I would say. And for now 35 years, I've been growing long hair. And now wearing it in braids and a black outfit and Crocs. Clocks. Yeah. Well, just a little bit about my work. As I said, I work internationally, so somehow I'm in the I am constantly moving. My work is very much between countries and moving myself and stuff that are used in performing arts works. So I'm very much living this research, I feel like. So somehow I think when I talk about this program, it's somehow also personal, uh, because I need to move with my work quite a lot. So yeah, I hope we can maybe delve into that a little bit.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maiken. I'm from Sápmi on the Norwegian side of the border. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a woman, my late 40s now. I'm wearing a patterned dress and I keep my curly hair down. Um, I'm the general manager of Ellisoffer Company, which is a company creating performing arts owned by a choreographer, filmmaker, and director, Ellisoffer Farah. We're based in Sápmi, which is in the very northern parts of Norway. The area covers Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Murmansk Oblast in Russia. Ellisoffer creates performances that hail from a culture of small languages and closeness to nature. And the company is probably best known at the moment for the performance Vassaras Erna, The Answer is Land, which is toured extensively in Europe and Canada, and will actually be having its US premiere next week at Jacob's Pillow. And when we entered the ITO program, this was part of our ongoing process for sustainability in all aspects of the organization. The nature of the work makes it necessary for us to travel, and being situated in the far north, there are no trains that can take us to our collaborators. And therefore, our efforts in reducing our environmental impact needs to come from other aspects of our work. And focusing on Sami rights and the possibility to live everyday lives, doing our rehearsals, our collaborations, our sharings in Sápmi, in addition to doing our international touring, is of great importance. And our focus during ITER was how to make the reductions where we can and to gather data to confirm our choices. And we wanted to look into an ITER project that focused on slow travel, the pros and the cons, as well as a cultural exchange and understanding. And we do not want to be excluded because our travels are expensive, they take a long time, and they require several flights. And I just want you to understand that issue, because when I leave Manchester tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m., I need to catch a 2-hour flight to Oslo. I'll wait there for 2-3 hours before I catch another 2.5-hour flight to Alta, where I have to wait for another 2 hours before there is a 3-hour bus that will take me to Hammerfest. So I expect to be home about 8 p.m., and that would be a 14 hours travel. And if I were to convert that into slow travel, I would be back by Tuesday. So the big question is, what is my time worth? And how can I best possibly make use of the time while I travel?
Thank you, Maiken. And it would be great to hear a little bit more about your projects as well, and the big question that you wanted to answer. Maybe Olga, if you want to.
Yeah. I was so lucky to collaborate with Maiken and Ellisoffer Company and Postil of Outreach here, based in Leicester in England. We met on the ISA program last year. I guess we were the 24, round. And the project has kind of been unfolding, well, still is going on a little bit. But it somehow came from an idea of combining the travel itself with the artwork. And as I said, I work in scenography and costume design. And one topic that had become very evident in my work was that costume is somehow it's more tourable, let's say. So as a focus point, it's very a very obvious place to go in my work. And my great grandmother's from Greenland, and in my childhood home, it's plastered with images of beautiful women in national attires Greenland. Somehow been a tradition in my family to continue taking these portraits until my generation. We're somehow the first one who has not made it to the wall. So it became a question of mine. What is national costume? What is it to me from where I'm from in Denmark? What is it to all of us in a sense? And we met in this conversation, and Maiken and Nelle Sophie company brings a very interesting point from Sapni and your experience of working also with the costumes in your performances. And Paul Steele from Leicester, who's representing a city for many cultures. So we became interested in somehow, can we combine like the production of an artwork with the touring and somehow creating an artwork of that process? Because as you say, it's a condition. Like traveling is a condition for all of us in different ways. And performing arts can't really change that. And we also don't want to, because these international collaborations are so inspiring and bring so much with it. So yeah, it's almost a design question, if I can allow it to be that. Like, how can we build an artwork from this condition?
Thank you. I mean, isn't everything a design question?
Yes.
And Victor, can you tell us a little bit about the question that you really wanted to answer?
Yeah, I would say it's more a question that we explored. I don't know if we found a kind of really nicely packaged answer to that question, but we started off the journey wanting to further explore an approach that we've been adapting at Pavilion Dance, and it's called deep touring. So the reason why we started the notion of deep touring was we found that as a receiving house, as a receiving dance house, the traditional model was, performance companies would come into our building, they perform, and then they leave as fast as they can, really, primarily for economic purposes. So we wanted to see if we can find a different way of working where the artists can really connect with local communities more and have genuine moments to build a relationship and connect with one another in different ways. So that's something we've done in the UK for the past couple of years. And through ITER, we wanted to see how we can explore that at an international level. And the question that we wanted to explore was whether we can consider environmental responsibility in our decision making from the very start of the project, and let them be creatively informing the process rather than becoming limitations of our projects. So that was what we were trying to explore and see if we can find out a little bit more about. That's what we did.
Amazing. And I think that what you said at the start is a really important sort of qualifier for this, that we're not necessarily sitting here on this stage to tell you we've got all the answers. I'd be very rich, imagine. but but where this whole thing is still an experiment, it's an exploration, and it is through building these collaborations that we're sort of arriving at these different answers. And not every answer for every organization is going to be the same. So thank you for bringing that in. But also when we're talking about these collaborations and the importance of doing this work for all of your different contexts, one of the things that we're seeing in so many different places is the multiple challenges that arts organizations are facing. How are you sort of flying the flag to say touring is really important for us to think about, and how are you connecting that with the other challenges that you're facing? Shall I go to you, Maiken?
Yeah, I'm grabbing that one because I represent a company that is from Sápmi, and in Sápmi there is a minority living. It's called the Sami, which is indigenous to Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Now, these minorities are not that well known in Europe or in mainland Norway, Sweden, Finland, for that matter. And to us, touring is also about sharing knowledge, sharing the cultural knowledge. If we were to only do our performances locally, we're not teaching anything. We're not getting any wiser. None of us are getting wiser. And we believe that changing the world may be done step by step by micro happenings, and we want to be part of that, and we really want to be sharing our work with other cultures. Touring in Canada was of great importance to us, meeting other Indigenous peoples, very, very important, and finding that the challenges are the same no matter where you are in the world. And I think taking that to a broader perspective, I mean, art really changes things. So touring is important. We can't just tour within our local community. It's not making us any smarter.
Thank you. And yeah, I think that some of the things that I've also learned from engaging with work internationally is that sometimes it feels like we have really unique challenges, but when we start talking to people and when we're able to collaborate, there's so much that is reflecting across all of our contexts. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think for me, touring is about uh, building connections simply. So when you bring people from very different backgrounds together and they have an interaction of any sort, it's about kind of sharing um, experiences and building a relationship. Um, so for me, that's a very important thing because, you know, our world now is more divided than ever, really. And to have these opportunities to come together to find common grounds is very important. Um, whether be it through art or through dance or through just meeting in different ways. So, for example, during our ITER project, we delivered so before the performance, we delivered a week-long worth of workshops for local children as well, which became a way for the artists that we were working with, Claire Benson, to interact with a completely different sets of demographic that she's not worked with before, because she developed the whole piece in the UK for an audience in the UK with children from the UK. So taking that experience and see how that exchange would manifest itself with children from a completely different background was a really valuable cultural exchange. Um, so I think that's where the value of touring is, that you create these moments that would not be possible online or, you know, connecting in other ways. It's that genuine in-person human connection that's very important to us.
Where to start? I almost don't think it makes sense to not tour, like to not meet each other in this art form. Like one of the things that are so amazing about this art form is that it's a social one. Like it's so basic to what we do. We're meeting people, we're exchanging ideas. This is what I'm here for in a way. And it only expands when we keep crossing borders. Like for example, the question that I started this one, like my personal idea on like costume and or like fashion. You can't put border on fashion. Like it's not possible. So that conversation need to cross borders, I think.
Amazing. And so the whole way that ITA works is about embedding collaboration in and the funded projects that come through the programs have partners from each of the countries represented. So how did this way of working enable you to explore new ways of collaborating? And did this also extend into sort of thinking about deeper collaborations outside of these organizations with the communities that you're engaging with or with artists that you're working with? Are there particular sort of new things that have come into your practice?
Should I start? um, Yeah, I just want to first introduce some of the other partners that we worked with on our project. So Pavilion Dance was the UK organization, UK partner, and we had one other UK partner as well, which is Asken's Holt. And they are a primarily music touring agency. So they help musicians and orchestras tour around Europe, and they're based in the UK. And we had two additional Danish partners as well. Um, uh, the first one is Aarhus Festival. So Aarhus Festival was part of the ITER cohort with us. So we did the online sessions together that Julie's Bicycle delivered, and learned a lot about environmental justice and the context in which this whole project sits. Um, so from there, we kind of started a conversation with Aarhus Festival to see whether they're interested in exploring the notion of deep touring together. And Aarhus Festival then brought an additional Danish partner into the equation that was outside of the ITER program. And the organization is called Bora Bora. And they are one of the most important dance organizations in Denmark. So we were really glad to have them on board as well as the dance expert in this partnership. Um, and yeah, I think these four organizations kind of came together and went through quite a long journey of exploring how we can collaborate together and build something where we can all learn from the experience. Um, so it took almost a year to plan the whole project. So the project was about sending two productions that Pavilion Dance is involved in different ways, taking those two productions to Denmark. The first one is with a company called Lila Dance. They were our associate artist, and we took a production called Fault Lines to Aarhus Festival and presented it at Bora Bora. And with that production, we worked on a model where we had a mixed cast of UK performers and Danish performers. So instead of taking 6 dancers to Denmark, we took 3 dancers to Denmark and rehearsed with 3 Danish artists online to learn the piece, and then put it all together when they arrived in Aarhus. So they had 5 days in total when they got there to put it all together to form a new ensemble and present it as a new collective, if you may. So that was one part of the project. And this group traveled by train all the way to Denmark. So that journey that you mentioned earlier, it took us 48 hours to go from. That group was performing at Edinburgh Fringe Festival at that point, and then they had to travel all the way down to London by train, and then go back up the other way by train as well. So it took 2 whole days of traveling, which is not easy. And I'll tell you more about that later when we talk a little bit about transportation. But the other project was, as I mentioned earlier, Claire Benson, who's a local artist in Bournemouth, that developed a piece called Plastic Paradiso, which is a environmentally themed piece about a world of plastic. So she collected quite a lot of material from the beach, plastic material from the beach, and then created this set piece that's kind of half built from. No, actually, they were all built from found pieces from beaches across Dorset. And so as part of that production, we, instead of taking the whole set to Denmark, we worked with a Danish artist to source plastic from the beach from different places in Denmark to recreate a new set. And then worked with local children in the different workshops that we did the week before the performance. And then all the children came to the performance as well. So they had this much deeper connection to the piece than just coming to see the show. So yeah, quite a multi-layered, complex project that we did. Hence, it took a whole year of planning and sort of weekly meetings throughout that whole year as well, trying to problem solve. I could give you one very specific example. It took us forever to sort out how to recreate a set with, those milk bottles that we have in the UK that's plastic. It turns out they don't have that equivalent in Denmark, and we had to find a different way of finding something that looked similar or have the same effect, and be able to source it in an environmental way. So we're not just buying new plastic bottles to create a set. So that took quite a long time, back and forth, trying to sort out how we're going to do that with the original set designer and the Danish artist that was working on the set. And that was just one little part of this whole tour project. But it was worthwhile in the end. I mean, it all came together really beautifully. And that's why we think it's worth it. That sense of connection that was made in the end was not something that we experienced before. And that was, not just on an artist and audience kind of level, but between the organizations as well, that we were open to that collaborative way of working, that we weren't scared of, spending that time and effort into planning something that we really believe in, because we really want to not compromise on the artistic integrity of the work, whilst considering the environmental impact that we're making as a project. So, yeah, sorry, that was a very long answer to your question.
No, it's great to hear those details and to hear how you worked around all of those. I mean, I'd love to see your dancers like practicing over Zoom.
There was a lot of like pencil choreography. So we're using a pencil to demonstrate, because we had each of the dancer had like a prop where it's like a long stick. So the pencil became the prop that we used to demonstrate that.
Amazing.
And the dancers kept telling me, oh, we weren't sure whether it's going to work when we arrived, because everything was done on pencil at that point. But it did.
Can I just continue from what you're saying, even though it's completely deviating from your question, maybe? But I'm just like from the design perspective, what the example that you're mentioning now is exactly why we often tend to then use international standards. Like, this is where we often end up using a stage podium, and this is why we use a dance mat and like a video projection, because these are tour friendly. But I just think it's so important that we also allow ourselves to groundwork also locally. Like, let ourselves be inspired by local milk. What was milk? Whatever. It can be whatever, right? Because these are the things that are interesting in these places that we are around. So I don't know. I just thought I would mention that because it's such I think it's such a lost potential in this way of thinking internationally all the time. Stage podiums are great, but if everything is 1x2, then you end up with a lot of productions that are 1x2. And yeah, this is a whole thing. So what was the question?
My question was about how working collaboratively can, through the ITA process, can expand how you think collaboratively and work with other people, with communities, with other artists. But yeah, I mean, that was also great, thinking about the contexts that we're in, and how we don't just flatten culture into one thing that has a template, but we find the ways to constantly bring the local and the nuance into it.
Can I say one thing about our project? A very specific example again, because this became a journey, right? A journey of creating an artwork, but also letting oneself be inspired by the communities that we meet, or that I met on this journey. And somehow in the collaboration with Outreach, we managed to find a lot of interesting people along the way to talk to. And this continued to extend the artistic content in a way that was overwhelming at times, but I would say extremely interesting for a way of starting an artwork, because you already create a community, also a way of expanding an audience in a way. You almost build up attention around an artwork while you produce it. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been it's been a very interesting project. But trying to pans back into your question, I think this way of finding collaborators, I would never have worked with Artways UK and Paul or Olga if it hadn't been for this project. And finding collaborators because you have a common interest is always a good starting point. But I also think that we all need to remind ourselves that creating some good international connections, that takes a long time. So even though that we've done this project now, we might not see the actual results until 5, maybe 10 years time, because that's when you really know each other. That's when we have a project that is fed on an artistic process, not just the idea of doing a collaboration. So I think this is a very good starting point and a very good door opener for us being interested in having this focus.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's that the saying that you have to move at the speed of trust, and that's what allows these collaborations to really flourish. And especially when there's other difficult processes and things that come through when we're trying to explore new things. So one of the questions that I had was about how you build inclusivity into this process. So, for example, one of the things that comes through at JB in these conversations is that sometimes slow touring can be really difficult for people with disabilities or with caring responsibilities, or that there might be constraints with trying to collaborate across borders because of visas, especially when we're working with artists and organizations in the global south who have less access. So how do you navigate some of these challenges when you're sort of trying to build these collaborations? Or
Well,
what have the
visas
challenges
isn't
been?
well, as long as you're in Europe, visa is not like the big issue, not yet. We all managed to get here. um but yeah, international touring and visas, as the world is turning now, is challenging, and we do find that there are touring companies who are having to um, find other performers because the performers that they want to take part in their shows are no longer given visas to certain countries, and that is a challenge that we need to be aware of. Um, but I think that might be maybe the our next level worry. I think our first initial thought on this project is how to make the most out of the touring that we have. And I'm very happy for what you talked about, Victor, about you trying to have the artists stay longer, because that's also what we do from our part. We want to stay longer. We want to have those conversations, which has been a very important part of our project, starting off with meeting at at Paul's festival and just sharing a meal, talking about our experience, and making that like the kickstart of our project. Um, yeah, talking together, meeting, finding that time to not just rig, play, leave, but finding the time to sit down and learn. So what are you interested in, and how much more can we give you while we're there, or what can you give back to us at a certain later point, or making sure that we have time to make the connections.
I think it's actually important that we allow ourselves to be personal also when we are. I can't speak directly on your on the, I'm an able-bodied person, so I wouldn't know exactly that those challenges, but I certainly have my own as well with traveling, and it can cost something personally to be on the road as we need to be. So when planning a tour, I think JB also did this just here, like the conversation, this just creating a space with the person traveling to explore different ways of doing it. It's a very simple task. It really is, but it's actually a great conversation, and I think super important to because sustainability. It's also a sustainability for the life, like the person. Yeah, so it's a social question as well.
Yeah, I think there was something around. So, as an organization, Pavilion Dance works a lot with, artists with diverse backgrounds and diverse needs as well. Um, so, for example, currently we're working with a visually impaired choreographer called Holly Thomas, and we work really deeply with this choreographer in terms of developing her work, connecting her with visually impaired communities in our area, as well as training our staff so that we become a venue that can cater for audiences that have those needs. The reason why I mentioned this example was um, I think there's something about entering a project at a point where you feel safe to be able to hold those spaces for those artists that has different needs as well. And in this first iteration, we felt that actually as an organization, what we need to learn first was the reality of what touring slowly and touring in a deep way feels like. Really understand that context a little bit more before we take artists with different needs on that journey with us. And that can very much be our next sort of step in the process. Um, and we would love to apply for the ITER project again next year to work on a project with different artists in that way as well. So yeah, I think timing is an important thing because different organizations were all on different journeys in different areas in environmental responsibility, in inclusivity and diversity. So just finding that right moment that's actually conducive of an environment that's safe, but also taking risk in a safe way is very important.
Yeah, those are great responses, thinking about connection, being open to the reality and acknowledging the reality of like those difficulties and also coming to it with trust. And yeah, connection. Uh, we don't have a huge amount of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just check if anybody in the audience has a question for our panelists before we wrap up. No?
There's one in the back.
Oh, right at the back.
Yeah, so it was just on the issue of trust. How do you feel in your practices, individual practices, that you can grow that trust?
The question was, how do you build that trust into individual practices as well?
It's a trust exercise.
Okay. So yeah, how do you engage with people with individual practices as well? I mean, Olga, you're not an organization necessarily. So how do you sort of spend that time building trust?
That's a very good question. Right now in my practice, I'm very occupied with the work, the costume design process. This feels like a non-answer, but yeah. When I work with a dancer, I asked the dancer very personal questions about their body, because they will need to be able to move in whatever I will put them in. So it's actually a big ask, and it can be a big it can be a big act of power almost if I put them in something uncomfortable. So the conversation that derives from those simple questions, I find, is door openness. And it was a little bit a question that we tried to filter into this project as well. Like, when we then arrive somewhere and are curious about a culture, are there ways of, is there a personal way almost to lean into a conversation? It's not exactly it for me. It's about trust. I can't create a good costume for someone if there's not trust somehow in that process. So it's an indirect answer to your question, but artistically, this is what occupies me at the moment.
And can I say something about trust that has to do with the fact that we worked digitally for a long time in this process? We attended so many very good talks and seminars digitally. But the thing is, you don't build trust through a screen. You kind of get to know people. So when we did our first physical meeting, our plan was to sit on that train and do some work. And we sat on that train and we talked a lot. And I traveled with a trainee. And in the evening, I asked her how her day had been. And she said, well, it's been good, but I was actually expecting that we would work a lot more. And I said, you've been working all day. Connecting, talking is also about work. It's about learning who the other people are that we are going to work with for the rest of this week. So trust is very important, because you cannot get down to the work until you trust. And working on screen, it removes the level. It's really difficult to get across.
I guess two short things to say to that. One is, that factor of time. Spending time together is very important. You can't really rush things. Things just take time. The other one is about finding an initial common ground. And it can be a very simple thing. It can be as simple as food that you both like. Even just that kernel of inkling of, we have something in common starts that journey of, oh, okay, if we have something, anything in common, we can build on that and see what comes out of it. So yeah, trust. Big question.
But I think it's interesting that the answer is like the question is complex, but some of the answers are actually going back to something simple, like a meal, a conversation. Like, these are somehow some very big answers.
Yeah, I mean, I never run an event that doesn't have food, and there's almost always some karaoke that I enforce.
Karaoke. That's the answer.
That's what you didn't know is happening later. Thank you all. And yeah, sorry, this was a really short introduction, but hopefully it's something that can inspire you to maybe reach out to some of our panelists and to think about applying for the ITA program as well. And also, just if you're not in an organization or in that position, that it can spark some conversations about touring. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go up to the 6th floor, and we're going to do a more practical workshop that will sort of go through some more of these questions, and hopefully leave with a few more concrete ideas. If you want to join us, you're very, very welcome. And that's going to be starting at 4:15. So in the meantime, thank you so much to Maiken, to Olga, and to Victor, and also to Arts Council England, to the Danish Arts Foundation, and to Arts Council Norway, and to futurum as well, who are our partner. And thank you all for being here.